I am Roni Haskell, and this is For the Love of Real Estate podcast. I am joined by Mr. Joseph Pye and Karen Radcliffe as former educators in the county, and we're going to be talking about the referendum. So today I've got Mr. Pye, Mr. Joseph Pye here with us, and Karen Radcliffe. Thank you both for being present. You come as former educators, leaders within our Dorchester 2 school district, and we're really here kind of to highlight and focus in on the school referendum. We're seeing signs all over town, and so we just wanted to kind of share with the community what this is and why it's important for everybody to vote. So welcome, and thanks for joining me on the podcast today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yes, thank you.
So, Mr. Pye, you are now retired, living your best life, I hope, as retired and out of the daily grind of the school district. But you served this county for a long time. Tell us about your legacy here within Dorchester 2.
I had a 53-year career, 50 of those years in Somerville. I started in Charleston County. I was a teacher, assistant principal, a principal, personnel director, assistant superintendent, and superintendent. And I was superintendent for my last 23 years.
Wow. So 23 years, 53 total within serving in the schools. You have seen a lot. You've seen a lot of growth in our county. We're going to talk about that in a moment. And also, from my understanding, you started during your last tenure there as superintendent. You also started a growth study and projections that we now have the results from, which has spearheaded the referendum currently. So we'll dive into that, Karen. You also have served within the Dorchester 2 school system. Kind of tell us about your lineage in the schools here.
Well, I'm a product of this district, so I'm very proud of that. I had the good fortune to be a teacher at Somerville Intermediate when it was just 9th and 10th grade. I was able to go to Fort Dorchester High School as a teacher and a coach. I served at Somerville High School as an assistant principal for 11 years, and then finally principal at Ashley Ridge High School. I was able to open that school thanks to Mr. Pye. And then my final few years I spent as executive director of secondary schools.
So you too have served at lots of different capacities. You've experienced lots of different things. you've got great relationships. And I've come to know you by serving on the committee for this referendum, and I have learned that you two come with a big fan base. A lot of people really know you. They have you have a great reputation within the school system. So
I appreciate that.
Thank you for being a part of us. And you're retired now, and also hopefully living your best life, but clearly still serving what your passion has been for so many years.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure.
Yes. So, all right, well, let's jump into the referendum because there's people, if you live in Dorchester District 2, you have seen the signs. We have, and I'm going to go ahead and kind of put it out there that we recognize that they have been vandalized, and hopefully that will lead our community to, spurring a little passion behind this, and people kind of wanting to join our efforts of standing up against the vandalism and that community member that did that to the signage, because they have been funded by this has been funded by the Dorchester 2 Citizens for School Improvement. And let me go ahead and kind of state real quick that is former school administrative, that is business owners, parents that have their kids in the schools, and other individuals within our community base have been funding this initiative and really getting the word out there. It's just passionate community members, and we've had somebody else passionate enough in the community to go and vandalize those signs, which is a real shame. However, there are other initiatives, other than just signs, but you can't go down the streets of Dorchester County without seeing those big yellow and blue signs everywhere. But we have been trying to get some other material and collateral out as well about this. And so we're going to kind of hit on some of these topics. So I had stated that you, during your latter years as superintendent, started this study. Tell us about why that was important and why you saw that it was a need for the county.
Well, my entire time, especially all the opportunities I had to be an administrator at whether it be the school level or the district level, that's been our number one challenge in Dorchester 2, is trying to maintain a quality education, giving the very best to the young people in our community for their futures. And it's been the challenge of trying to overcome the growth that's coming so fast in waves down through the years. We've been able to meet those challenges enough to keep up, but we see the trend now where thousands of houses are projected, thousands of people are projected to be moving into our community, and you can see it all around now. Growth is really happening, and the school system is once again stretched beyond the max. We have good many schools beyond capacity, and all the rest of them are at capacity. We don't have any classrooms, to my knowledge. At least we did when I was here, and it's grown considerably since. So that's the challenge: is being able to be able to have the buildings and the facilities and the programs necessary to have the quality education, and funding it is the issue. There's so limited ways that we can fund. There's none that I know of, unless someone gives us some money, other than what we're doing now, being able to sell off some of our previous bonds and refinance them at a lower interest rate, and that is allow us to build some money towards putting this out without raising the taxes, and that's a win-win for everybody, because we have to have it, and I know people don't want their taxes raised. That's always an issue. That's right. And so I think this is the way to go. It
is. Well, that's what, the need is there. You've recognized it. And as a real estate professional, I'm on the forefront of a lot of conversations as people are migrating to our area. Mm-hmm. We've created a culture, a community that people love. They're attracted to it. They say they're moving to Charleston, but when they really start diving in and looking at where in Charleston do they really want to plant their roots? Where do they want to put their kids in school? A lot of times it is. You really have been instrumental over the years, Mr. Pye, of building a district of schools that is attractive to families. So I get to sell it, but as I'm selling it, there's some sense of responsibility to be engaged in the helping to fund the continued growth and possibilities that these families have. So Karen, talk to us a little bit about that referendum. So I understand 12 years ago, a referendum was put into place. And as Mr. Pye was talking about, it's being paid down. And now that is going to be voted on potentially as a continuation, as I understand it. Talk to us more about what that looks like.
Well, the nice thing about this referendum, as well as the past referendum, is every school is going to be touched. And I think that's extremely attractive to voters and to parents, to our students and our teachers. Every school is going to have an opportunity to get something as part of the referendum, whether it's additions for safety, whether it's additions for space, looking at the addition of 2 elementary schools. I think you get a lot of bang for your buck with this $200 million referendum. So, for us, we need everybody out there to vote.
Yeah. So the referendum in 2012 was put into place. My understanding is it's being paid down, and so they want to take out another $200 million, as you stated, Karen, to refund more projects, a couple of new schools, some expansion of classrooms versus temporary learning cottages, which are not really ideal learning environments, correct? And they're, from my understanding, I'm learning all of this as a parent of school of students in the school, but those learning cottages are very expensive to get put into place, and they're not ideal conditions, correct?
That's correct.
So this will be an expansion of buildings onto current buildings, and then future growth, classrooms, HVAC systems. Talk about the safety aspect, because I know that there's a lot of capital improvements, and when each school is touched, not everything will be expanding, but everything will be touched. So what are some other ways of improvements for some of the schools?
We're looking at a better camera system for many of our schools. Some of our technology is very aged, so we're looking at some new, updated technology, camera systems to enhance our safety, so we know exactly what's going on each of our campuses. Some of our entry areas need to be revisited as well for safety purposes, so that'll be addressed in this referendum as well.
So this referendum, one of the conversations I've heard has been, well, we want to pay teachers more. It can't pull from referendum money, right? From my understanding, there's two different pots that things come from. Explain that a little bit deeper, Mr. Pye. How do projects get paid for within the county, and how do teachers earn their salary? How does that?
Well, the funding that we receive from the county goes towards the operation of the school district as a whole. But anything that we do as far as building is a whole different pot of money. It can only be received by state funds that are allocated for the building, which has only happened once in recent 30, 40, 50 years, and our referendum are what we're doing now in Dorchester too. So of the three options, this certainly is the best one. Anytime you can get some wonderful things without raising the taxes, that has to be a win-win for the community. But people do get that mixed up, and I actually heard people that are very supportive of this making that statement. A person called me the other day. They're writing an editorial that should be out any day, and they read it to me, and I had to stop them and say, I didn't know they'd already turned it in, and just said, that you're mixing two pots of money, because it was said that they would allow us to give teachers raises. But now a lot of our money sometimes has to go to a lot of the updates to cameras and things like this, that out of our regular general budget, that if we didn't have to fund those type of expenses, that money then could be used towards personnel if it was available. But right now it's stretched so thin that there's really no extra money for any kind of salaries, but they're two total different things.
Yes, and so that's what I've come to understand as I've been educated on this myself, is salaries for the personnel is a sensitive subject, something that is constantly looked at, and recently even those improvements are being made, those increases are being made, but that cannot be, teachers' salaries can't come from this referendum. This is solely capital improvements for our properties around town, brick and mortar, so to speak. What else is important for people to know? We need to get out and vote, right? That's why the signs all say vote yes. There is only one thing going to be on that ballot on May 14th. And the 2 weeks leading up to this, that will be early voting. And I'll have you share some of that detail here in a minute with us, Karen, of where to go and when to go and such. But when you see the signs that say vote yes, there's going to be one thing on the ballot. And we want them to vote yes. And what are they voting yes for? Very specifically, in one little nugget, what would you say they're voting for?
You're voting for our students.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to me, that's pretty much what it means to us. It's about our kids. It's about the safety. It's about the welfare. It's about academic achievement. It's about our students. Yeah. That's what we're voting yes
and
for.
Their futures.
Yes. And even if people don't have children in school now, your message to them would be?
Let's look at the future of our community. Mm-hmm. We want the very best community. We have the best community. You have to maintain it. And that you do that by developing these young people to be worthwhile citizens and be able to add to the enhancement that we already have in our community.
I think so too. And to the point about teachers, it's hard to keep excellent teachers if you're overwhelming them, right? Mm-hmm. Or between classroom sizes or the environment that they're, the conditions of what they're having to work in is not excellent. It's seemingly, from a business, I'm on the business side of things, but it would seemingly be hard to keep employees if you don't equip them with the best environment. So if they have overcrowded classrooms, that's a personnel issue as well as a student issue, right? So
working conditions are considered more valuable to teachers than even their salary. If you had to rank them, working conditions are number one in the eyes of people of choosing a job, a teaching job in a school district. They want to be in a school where they're supported by their administration. They're working with colleagues who have passion to do their very best for kids, and in a community that embraces and supports teachers in education. And that's what it's all about. And that's what's made us a standout in the Low Country for years, is that we've been able to offer that in most cases, most of the time. Yes. Everybody has issues, but that's our calling card. We've been able to keep teachers here. In spite of the districts around us giving a lot more money, people will tell you, I'm not driving 20 more miles to work in those kinds of conditions. We still have the lead on the best schools in the Low Country.
Well, as you stated, Mr. Pye, just now, it's a standout district. And so we want to keep it that way. We want to be able to support those families that are living here. We want to support their children's education because, as you again pointed out, it's the future of this community. So, Karen, if people want to vote, tell us about where to go, when to go, even where to park. Like, boil it down in a nutshell for us.
Well, that's easy. Early voting starts on April 29th. That's Monday. And for 2 weeks, they can go to the Marsha O'Brien Conference Center. Marsha O'Brien is located right behind Somerville Elementary School, right off of Main Street. There is plenty of parking in the back of the Marsha O'Brien. The time to vote would be 8:30 to 5 o'clock for 2 weeks. And then the big voting day is May 14th. And you can vote on May 14th at all of our regular polling areas.
Yes. All right. Well, very good. Well, hopefully that people will go and vote because this has to pass by, it can pass by a singular vote, right? So when we think from a community standpoint, I think, you hear it your whole life, every vote counts. In some elections, it's a percentage. However, in this voting, it is every single vote does count. And if it doesn't pass this time around, there's a long period of time that has to be waited before it's put back onto the ballot, in which time will be overcrowded. The process, the buildings, the facilities will inevitably continue that strong need, and we'll just be that much further behind in our efforts. Correct?
Correct. And the cost will be even higher at that point in time.
Well, that's a good point because I have heard that the cost of construction is outpacing even our growth. And so
every month we're seeing the inflation part going up, and so it's getting almost ridiculous. The last school we built here, East Edisto, I think we did it for around $31 million. It's a first-class school. Yes. To build that same building now is in the 50s. And we just opened the school 2 years ago.
Yeah. So
5 years, it's more than doubled.
It's unbelievable.
The cost of construction is elevating, really outpacing us. So we've got to get these schools built. We've got to get these projects completed. As you pointed out, Karen, and every single school will be touched by this. So our message to every community member that has the right to vote in Dorchester 2, if they live in Dorchester 2, the message is to go vote. Make your voice heard. Right?
Absolutely.
All right.
Please.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today and speaking out and delivering this message to our community. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you for joining us today. If you're interested in buying, selling, or investing in the Charleston area, reach out to me. I'd be honored to help.